Welcome in, everyone. The Browns shocked the NFL by trading superstar pass rusher Myles Garrett to the Rams, leaving Denzel Ward as the longest tenured player in Cleveland. Despite the move, Ward insists he's committed to staying, saying the team still believes it can win and that it's Ohio against the world. I never heard that before. How does a franchise defining trade like the Myles Garrett move reshape the identity and expectations of a team, both in the locker room and for the fan base? Well, I think this allows Denzel Ward to have a positive. There's a leadership vacuum. We all know Myles Garrett was the biggest personality in the room in every space he was ever in when he was with the Browns. And that allows a leadership vacuum for Denzel Ward and other voices. With Garrett gone, players like Ward, newcomers such as Jarrett Verse, who they brought in, they're going to have to redefine leadership roles. They're going to lead very different than Myles Garrett and set the tone for the defense. Now, the culture is going to go through a stress test. This is a big move, and it could divide the locker room or it could help. Moves like this will reveal whether the team's culture is truly strong or if it was overly dependent on one superstar's presence. Lastly, fan expectations and narrative shift. Fans initially see the trade as a setback. I have friends from Cleveland. I know they're boo-hooing right now. But if Verse develops and the draft picks hit, that narrative could shift from the loss of a star to long-term reset with upside. All to the good. Iran's soccer federation accused the United States of vindictive behavior after visas were denied to several key officials ahead of World Cup matches hosted in Los Angeles and Seattle. While all Iranian players and core staff were approved, U.S. officials said some applicants were rejected due to alleged ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, escaping the political tension around Iran's participation. So, how should global sports events handle political tensions between nations, especially when security concerns collide with the principle of keeping sports free from political interference? Look, we're talking security versus fair play. Host nations have legitimate security responsibilities, but denying visas to non-athlete officials, that raises questions about whether political concerns are overshadowing FIFA's mandate for neutrality. There are 48 teams that have to come to America for these games. The precedent for future tournaments, I think this will affect it. Decisions like this could set a standard, either empowering host nations to enforce stricter vetting or pressuring governing bodies to create clearer, more enforceable rules. That could be it. I think it's going to have an impact on the players and competition. Even if athletes are cleared, disruptions to staff, preparation, and logistics, that can affect performance, raising the question of whether teams can truly compete on equal footing. Richard Childress revealed that he had planned to announce a contract extension for Kyle Busch at Michigan, but instead addressed Busch's sudden death from severe pneumonia that progressed into sepsis. Childress reflected on the emotional toll of losing another superstar driver and shared how close he had become with Busch and his family, including hopes for young Brexton Busch's future in racing. How does a team and the sport begin to heal and move forward after losing a generational talent, especially one who was still shaping his legacy and mentoring the next generation? I mean, there's going to be emotional recovery. There's going to be organizational stability. All of that is going to be tested. Losing a star driver, it impacts not just the performance, but the emotional core of a team. The leadership has got to balance this grief. They got to balance that with responsibility and keeping the organization steady. But it's not just that. The legacy and continuity of Busch's influence, from his competitive fire, and he was a hothead, to his mentorship of his son. See, that's going to become part of the sport's long-term story, shaping how fans and teams remember him and how future drivers are inspired. And then there's going to have to be some practical adjustments on the track. Richard Childress Racing, their decision to keep Austin Hill in the car for the rest of the season reflects the need for stability, while also preserving the number 8 for Brexton's potential future, showing how teams plan both short-term and generationality. 19-year-old Mira Andreeva captured her first Grand Slam title at the French Open, defeating Polish qualifier Maja Chawlinska 6-3, 6-2 to become the youngest champion at Roland Garros since Monica Seles in 1992. Andreeva has competed under neutral status due to the war, reflected emotionally on her journey, while Chawlinska's Cinderella run, that's going to vault her nearly 100 spots in the rankings. But what does Mira Andreeva's breakthrough mean for the future landscape of women's tennis, especially as a new generation begins to take over the sport? A new era indeed, and this is going to be predicated upon youth dominance. Andreeva's win signals that the next wave of teenage stars is ready to challenge established champions, potentially reshaping rivalries and tournament expectations. This is going to affect college recruitment as well. Mental growth and maturity. Look, her comments about battling nerves and fighting demons, that shows a level of self-awareness that could make her a long-term force rather than a one-tournament wonder. And then lastly, the global and political context, especially when in the semifinals she had to go against a Ukrainian. Competing under a neutral status adds complexity to her rise, and her ability to stay focused amid geopolitical tension demonstrates resilience that could define her career. Victor Wembanyama took responsibility for a costly late game turnover that helped the Knicks edge the Spurs 105-104 in game 2, putting San Antonio in a 2-0 finals. That hole, despite a furious fourth quarter comeback. Wembanyama admitted he lacked poise in the final possessions, while New York's physicality and Karl Anthony Towns' efficiency continued to disrupt the Spurs' rhythm. What does a moment like Wembanyama's turnover reveal about a young superstar's development curve, and how much pressure should be placed on him to carry the Spurs in the finals at just 22 years old? Wembanyama is going to get growth through failure. These late game mistakes, it's all part of the natural evolution of a franchise cornerstone. The greats often have defining failures before they have defining triumphs. He's 22. Now, the team context matters. The Spurs' issues go beyond Wemby. They're getting beat on the glass, struggling to dictate the pace, and New York's physicality is forcing San Antonio out of its comfort zone. Now, the pressure versus their patience. Wembanyama is already performing at a superstar level, but expecting him to be flawless in his first finals run, come on, y'all, that's unrealistic. The real question is how quickly he can turn these moments into fuel for adjustments in game 3. It ain't over yet. Tampa Bay Lightning star Andrei Vasilevskiy captured his second Vezina trophy after leading the NHL with 39 wins and extending his streak to 9 straight 30-win seasons, second only to Martin Brodeur. The 31-year-old dominated the voting, earning 17 first-place votes and finishing well ahead of fellow finalists Ilya Sorokin and Jeremy Swayman. What does Andrei Vasilevskiy now rank among the greatest goaltenders of his era, and what does he still need to accomplish to cement his legacy amongst the all-time greats? I mean, he has sustained excellence. 9 straight 30-win seasons and multiple Vezinas. He's already in rare company. He ain't got to do nothing else from here going forward. He's already shown a level of consistency that only the Martin Brodeur type legends have matched. And then lastly, the playoff pedigree. His postseason resume, they've had deep runs. He's had clutch performances, and he's had a central role in Tampa Bay's sustained success. That just strengthens his case as the defining goalie of the 2020s. We not even done. His legacy is still building. At 31, he has several elite years left. Adding more cups or another dominant playoff run, that could elevate him from best of his generation to top 10 all time. ESPN had an article that ranks all 8 last place NFL teams from 2025 by their chances of going worst to first in 2026, with Detroit leading the pack thanks to elite metrics, better health, regression, and a soft schedule. At the bottom, teams like the Browns and the Cardinals face brutal divisions, shaky quarterback situations, and little statistical hope of a turnaround. So which of the last 8, the 8 last place teams that they talked about has the best chance to shock the league in 2026, even if the analytics say otherwise? I'll give you a few. Detroit is the safest bet because they weren't truly a last place team. They were top 3 in FPI, plus a cakewalk schedule compared to the rest of the NFC North. That'll help them. New Orleans and the Giants, those are wild cards. They both have second-year quarterbacks who could make Stroud or Daniels type leap, and the divisions aren't exactly intimidating. The Raiders, that's the chaos pick, because if Fernando Mendoza hits early, and rookie quarterbacks have they've changed franchises before, their defense is good enough to keep them in the mix. The Chiefs are banking on internal development, especially from Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, and the soon to return, I don't know how far long, Rashee Rice, with new receivers coach Chad O'Shea pushing the young group to elevate their technique, discipline, and chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. Despite last year's offensive struggles and no major wide receiver additions, Kansas City believes improved health, coaching, and maturity can unlock a more explosive passing attack. Can the Chiefs realistically return to having a top-tier passing offense in 2026 with a young, unproven receiver group, or is the front office gambling too much on internal growth? Xavier Worthy looks like the breakout candidate. He's showing sharper routes, improved ball skills, and strong chemistry with Mahomes. And O'Shea's intense coaching style, it seems to be accelerating his development. That is working. The biggest variable is Rashee Rice, whose jail time, knee cleanup surgery, and inconsistency against man coverage make him the most unpredictable piece in the offense. If he stabilizes, the entire wide receiver room looks different. But Kansas City is betting on coaching over acquisitions. Now, we still got some free agent moves to be made, but trusting O'Shea, Bieniemy, oh yeah, he's back, and Reed to fix the alignment issues, discipline, and execution. But if the young trio doesn't take a collective leap, the Chiefs may regret not adding a veteran wide receiver. The Cowboys enter 2026 without a true star edge rusher. And when's the last time that happened? Instead, relying on a deep rotation led by Rashawn Gary, Donovan Ezeraku, and a scheme built around collective pressure rather than individual dominance. With new defensive coordinator Christian Parker and pass rush consultant BT Jordan, Dallas is betting that depth, versatility, and interior disruption from Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, that can compensate for the loss of Micah Parsons in the absence of a marquee sack artist. Is Dallas smart to build its 2026 pass rush around depth and scheme instead of chasing a superstar? Or will the lack of a true closer haunt them in big games? The Cowboys are copying successful models. I mean, recent contenders like the Seahawks, you might have heard of them, the Eagles, the Broncos, they thrive with multiple 6 to 8 sack players instead of one dominant force. And Parker's history shows he knows how to maximize the depth. Now, their interior duo, see, that changes everything. With Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark collapsing pockets, Dallas's edge rushers should see more one-on-ones, giving players like Ezaraku, who quietly, he had a 28% win rate as a rookie. So he has a real chance to break out. The gamble in January football is the big thing. Depth works over a 17-game season, but when you need one guy, you need that dog to win a rep on 3rd and 7 in the playoffs, not having a Parsons or a Myles Garrett level closer could be the difference between a good defense and a championship one. There's still a real chance the Bears don't move to Indiana because no stadium deal is finalized. And Chicago and Illinois continue to negotiate aggressively to keep the team in state. Indiana is being used as leverage. And while the offer is real, the NFL and the franchise both have strong incentives to stay tied to the Chicago market. Are the Bears genuinely considering Indiana as their future home, or is this just the latest high-stakes leverage play in a long stadium negotiation? Remember now, New York Giants play in New Jersey. Nothing is signed. And until a binding agreement exists, I ain't worried about it. The Bears are still in play for Chicago, Arlington Heights, or another Illinois site. What up, Chi-Town? To my homies out there, I love going to Chicago. But meaning Indiana is far from a done deal. Now, Chicago and Illinois, they have stepped up their offers. They propose revised tax structures, infrastructure support, and lakefront alternatives that would keep the team tied to a major market identity, and the NFL values that. I lived in Indiana, and let me tell you, I know their pitch is strong, but Indiana's being very opportunistic right now. They offering some cheap land and friendlier financing, but the Bears, they're going to shrink their brand footprint by leaving the Chicago metro area entirely. The Vikings quarterback situation, with J.J. McCarthy battling Kyler Murray for the starting job, has the potential to create tension because both players expect to start and both have very different leadership styles. So if the competition drags into the season or the team starts slow, the locker room could split around whichever quarterback players believe gives them the best place to win. So how much pressure does a team create for itself when it brings in two quarterbacks who both expect to be the face of the franchise? Two quarterbacks means two agendas. And when both guys believe they could be QB1, every rep, every mistake, and every coaching decision gets magnified, which can quietly divide a locker room, even if players don't say it publicly. Let them get off to a bad start with whoever they choose. And the Vikings are in a transition phase, and uncertainty at the most important position, that could stall the development of young receivers, disrupt offensive rhythm, and create frustration if the coaching staff keeps flipping between win now and develop McCarthy. The only thing that prevents the drama is winning. Because if the Vikings start hot behind whichever quarterback, all the noise disappears. But if they stumble early, like I alluded to, the calls for the other guy, they just get louder and louder and louder. And that's when the locker room starts choosing sides. Caleb Williams's Madden NFL 27 cover pays tribute to Michael Jordan by mirroring the iconic 1985 Jumpman poster with the Chicago skyline behind him, symbolizing Williams's desire to bring that same championship energy to the Bears. As the first Bears player ever on the Madden cover, Williams embraces both the spotlight and the pressure, including the so-called Madden curse. He'll use that as motivation to chase the greatness he openly says people doubt he can reach. I know y'all gonna be in the comments about that. How much does a moment like landing the Madden cover actually shape a young quarterback's legacy? And does embracing the spotlight help or hurt Caleb Williams as he tries to become Chicago's next sports icon? He's leaning into the MJ comparison. He's not running from it. The skyline, the Jumpman homage, and his own comments shows how he understands the weight of Chicago sports history, and he wants to be judged by that standard. He wants all the smoke. So y'all don't have to take it easy. He's built for big markets. He's already lived in DC, LA, and now Chicago. And he's showing he can handle the celebrity side of being a franchise quarterback without losing the focus on football. And the Madden curse talk, that don't faze him. His confidence, I mean, the brother paints his nails. So he's saying, damn right, when asked if he could break it. He reflects a mindset that could either elevate him in the superstardom or even put more pressure on a Bears team trying to build on last year's playoff run.